Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to now introduce the director of JASA Van Cortlandt Senior Center, Sharon Wolf.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to our annual commemoration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and also of Black History Month. For those who don't know who I am, as Cheryl just introduced me, I'm the program director of JASA Van Cortlandt Senior Center. I would like to dedicate this program to the memory of David Bernstein, a former senior center volunteer who always took part in this event. Instead of reading a prepared text in 2019, he actually wrote his own speech to present to our group. This particular commemoration resonates deeply with me this year because I'm currently enrolled in an agency-wide inclusivity course called Belong at JASA. We've been reading and discussing a new book called Inclusive Conversations by Mary Frances Winters. The author is a DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusiveness consultant. She dedicated this book, quote, to the generations of freedom fighters, civil rights leaders, and social justice advocates who preceded me in the ongoing quest for an inclusive, equitable world that values the dignity of all people, end quote. In Belong at JASA, staff have been exploring how to create brave, safe spaces in which everyone may express their thoughts, their feelings, and experiences freely. All participants expect to be treated fairly and respectfully across gender, racial, religious, ethnic, socioeconomic, economic, and other differences. Ms. Winters introduces the concept of collective responsibility. This is the social justice concept that all of us are responsible for stopping injustices in our society. She points out that even if we as individuals don't collaborate actively in unjust action, we are still responsible for others' behavior, either by tolerating or ignoring or harboring those actions. The author quotes Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who explained collective responsibility as follows, quote, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. You can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality, end quote. So through our inclusivity training at JASA, all staff are engaged in learning how to implement Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of a just society. I would like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to Cheryl Warfield, our virtual senior course director extraordinaire, Grace Amoye, our senior center volunteer and coordinator of this program, the JASA Van Cortlandt virtual choral group, Isaac Ben Ayala, our pianist and tech assistant, and Cindy Taveras, program coordinator, for all the efforts they've put into making this a memorable and meaningful event. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Grace Amoye, our dedicated volunteer coordinator of this MLK commemoration and Black History Month event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, all. I'm Grace Amoye, and I'm streaming from New York City. We will start tonight's program by singing the Black National Anthem. But first, let me give you a little insight into the Black National Anthem, otherwise called Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift Every Voice and Sing was written and put to music by the Johnson Brothers in 1900. It was first performed in public in Jacksonville, Florida, as part of a celebration of Abraham Lincoln's commemorative birthday celebration on February 12, 1900. Singing this song quickly became a means by which Blacks could demonstrate their patriotism and hope for the future of America. In calling for earth and heaven to ring with the harmonies of liberty, Black people subtly spoke out against racism and Jim Crow laws, especially with the rise in the number of lynchings at the turn of the century. In 1919, the NAACP adopted this song, calling it the Negro National Anthem. Throughout the civil rights movement, the song experienced a rebirth By the 1970s, the anthem was often sung in succession with the Star-Spangled Banner at public events and performances across the United States at which there was a significant Black population in attendance. In 1990, singer Melba Moore released a modern rendition of the song, and with which she recorded. Partly due to the success of this recording, Lift Every Voice and Sing was entered into the congressional record as the official African American national anthem. And now we will ask Cheryl Warfield to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. If you are able, please stand for the rendition of this anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. To sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. We sing a rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you, Cheryl. And now we will pass this on to Paul.
And thank you, Grace. Hi, everyone. This is Paul Birnbaum. I'm a JASA chorus member and live in the Northwest Bronx nearby. Today is February 1st, which begins Black History Month. Our program will begin by paying tribute to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was certainly one of, if not the most, influential campaigners for the civil rights movement in the 20th century. Dr. King emphasized his policy of peaceful protest and nonviolence as he campaigned for equal rights for all in America. This style is similar to that employed by Mahatma Gandhi in India. Were Dr. King still with us, I am certain he would deplore the violence America has seen over the past year or so. My belief is that each of us holds the key to a brighter and better future for America and indeed the whole world. Let each of us strive to do our small yet very significant part. And now the chorus will perform I Have a Dream.
Solomon, also from the Bronx, and I'm going to recite a poem by Langston Hughes, an honored member of the Harlem Renaissance, known all over the world for his poetry. The poem I will recite is titled, I Too Sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. And now Paul will return to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raquel. In this next section of our program, we pay tribute to the African American spiritual. Spirituals are folk songs born of slavery, expressing a poetic reflection of deep emotion and feeling. Like the folk songs of other nations, such as Russia, Poland, Germany, and others, these songs were passed on from generation to generation in the oral tradition. Spirituals provide the only historical record from the slave perspective of their condition of life, faith, hope, and desire for freedom. The Old Testament played an integral role in the texts of spirituals. Plantation slaves related to the plight of the Israelites enslaved in Egypt. Spirituals speak of life and death, exile, of troubles and strife, hope, justice, and the desire for a better life. Their melodies are a beautiful expression of the human experience and the faith and hope for ultimate justice. In the 20th century, composers like Harry T. Burleigh, Nathaniel Dett, Florence Price, Margaret Bonds, and others began to notate and arrange spirituals to preserve their existence, and performers like Paul Robeson performed these songs in the music halls, the great music halls of the world. Spirituals influenced other American musical genres, including gospel, jazz, rhythm and blues, and rock music. Caucasian composers influenced by spirituals include Anton Dvorak from the New World Symphony, George Gershwin with Porgy and Bess, and Jerome Kern of Showboat. And now Lucy will perform We Shall Not Be Moved.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm Lucy Degadon, and I'm here in the very snowy Bronx today. As music and song has brought us together tonight, music and song sustained Black people for centuries through sadness and through joy. The song, We Shall Not Be Moved, was inspired by a biblical psalm, which reads, "And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf shall also not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." It was sung to great effect during the civil rights movement to show that right was on their side. And although you are muted, I hope that you will join me in the chorus of this wonderful song. We shall not be moved. On the road to freedom, we shall not be moved. On the road to freedom, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not be moved. Black and white together, we shall not be moved. Black and white together, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not be moved. Everybody, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not be moved. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. I almost heard everybody. Now I would like to introduce Doris and Raquel.
Thank you, Lucy. Good evening. This is Doris from Bronx, New York. After a long year challenge, we are continue facing the impact of the deadly virus. Many of us are grieving the loss of human life, financial security, and lack of a human personal touch. We are struggling with the economic downfall, social justice inequities, human rights, disparity, and many more. Do you think we will overcome these obstacles? Yes, we must, and we shall. Following is a spiritual, just help us to do that. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. Someday. Oh,
May an accuser stand at his right side. May he be
I
found guilty. May his days be few. May another take over his position. May his children be orphans, his wife a widow. May his children wander from their hovels, begging in search of bread.
Thank you. I'm not sure what was happening there. Raquel, would you like to sing it again?
Sure. No extra charge. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. And next now, Denise.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us to remember and celebrate through music the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and be a part of the first day of Black History Month. It is right that a national day was established to recognize Dr. King, to remind us to continue to learn and be inspired by his commitment to do for others. Not only on the Monday of every January, but every day we must insist in every way we can, that equality for all becomes a reality. It is way past time. In his lifelong commitment and in his sacrifice, Dr. King joined a long line of those known and unknown who dedicated their lives to address the painful issues of inequality and cruelty that have been sadly, frustratingly, continue to be directed at people of color. His designated day and the establishment of February as Black History Month recognize the work that needs to be done. They demonstrate our highest aspirations as a country. We must evolve into the best we can be, and finally, after so many detours, be a nation that does right by all its citizens and is a stellar example for all who struggle around the world. There's so many aspects and layers to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., so many talents and skills that came together in this extraordinary man. He was a religious leader, a compelling speaker, and an effective gatherer of like-minded people. The broadest details we know of his story are his commitment to working through nonviolence and love, his famous cry, "I have a dream," the March on Washington, and the tragedy of his assassination on April 4th, 1968. Today in our gathering as a chorus, it is our privilege to celebrate through music Dr. King's memory and his legacy. Music was an important and continuing facet of his life. As he grew up, he was surrounded by it through his mother, Alberta King, who was a singer and an instrumentalist, who served as the director of the choir and as the church organist at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. The music continued into his adult life with his marriage to Coretta Scott. She was a gifted singer and musician, and reflecting his mother as a choir director as well. Music was a powerful tool. As he himself said, the freedom songs are playing a strong and vital role in our struggle. He called songs the soul of the movement. They give people new courage and a sense of unity. They keep alive a faith, a radiant hope in the future, particularly in our most trying hours. Professional singers such as Mahalia Jackson and Harry Belafonte, who were early and consistent supporters of civil rights reform efforts, allied with him in his mission. That recognition from the music community continues. In a January 2017 email to American Federation of Musicians members, AFM International President Ray Hare noted, Dr. King's words are as relevant today as they were a half a century ago. Please remember Dr. King's commitment to civil and worker rights on Monday and throughout the year as we fight for justice together. In reading about Dr. King, I learned that group singing was prominent and helped to bring people together in the movement. Doing what we can, we, the JASA Virtual Chorus, are adding our voices to that tradition. Continue to enjoy and be uplifted. Thank you. Okay, and now Grace Amoye and I will continue with We Shall Overcome.
We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we are not afraid today.
We shall overcome. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. I'd now like to introduce the joyful voice of Carol.
Good evening. Thank you, Grace and Denise. My name is Carol Oshinsky. I am currently in Florida, but I was born and raised a Bronx girl. My song, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, is a traditional and African-American spiritual. It became an international pop hit in 1957 in a recording by English singer Laurie London and has been recorded by many singers and choirs. It was sung at the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and in 2013 by opera star Jesse Norman in the Capitol Building Statuary Hall. Miss Norman gave this introduction. In the heart of the soul has the same value and should be valued equally. When I repeat the chorus, please join in singing and clap along even though you are muted. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Your turn. He's got the whole world. Sing along. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got you and me, sister. In his hands, he's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. One more time. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Got the whole world in his hands. And now we will hear the choir sing Down by the Riverside. The slaves on southern plantations also identified with the Hebrew slaves of the Bible, so we will sing this song in Hebrew and English.
Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside and study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside and study war no more. Oh, yes, I'm going, Isa goyen goyere, goyen eduod milhama, goyisa goyen goyere. Goyisa goyen goyere, goyen eduod milhama, goyisa goyen goyere. Goyisa goyen goyere, goyen eduod milhama, goyisa goyen goyere.
At this time, I would like to make some remarks. This commemoration causes us to remember and to revive Dr. King's call to equality, justice, and brotherhood, of which he was the champion. He fought peacefully to see the reverie achieved. He had a dream that one day one's race would not matter and we would all be treated as equals. Unfortunately, almost 60 years later, that dream still has not materialized. Racism is even escalating. The most glaring example of such inequalities occurred in June 2020, when the peaceful Black Lives Matter march on Washington, D.C. was met with brutality, while on January 6, 2021, a mostly white, riotous mob stormed the US Capitol in a deadly encounter and were just asked to leave and told how they were loved. We must try our best to truly honor Dr. King's legacy. We shall never allow his dream to dissipate. Let us continue to seek freedom and justice for all. The poet Auriel Lucier writes, "The truth buried does not rot, it roots. The king buried does not die, he blooms." And now, as we continue our program, we have heard about spirituals. The tradition of singing spirituals continues today with new arrangements by composers around the world. It is a tradition among African American opera singers to include a set of spirituals on their classical recital programs. Tonight, one of our guest artists, Cheryl Warfield, will close this portion of the program with one of the finest classical arrangements of a spiritual written for Leontine Price. It is Margaret Bond's "He's Got the Whole World in His Hand." Cheryl Warfield is a Manhattan-based opera singer, educator, producer, and arts administrator who has performed at the Metropolitan Opera, the Lyric Opera of Chicago, Theater des Westens in Berlin, Germany, the Bregenz Festival in Austria, and with the Rome Festival Opera in Italy. She is a well-known interpreter of Verdi and Puccini heroines, having performed lead roles in the standard Italian repertory at the famed Amato Opera Theater in New York's East Village. On Broadway, she appeared in Hal Prince's Tony Award-winning revival of Showboat. Cheryl is a member of Actors Equity, SAG-AFTRA, and the American Guild of Musical Artists. She is also the founder and artistic director of Manhattan Opera Repertory Ensemble, More Opera, a nonprofit that provides undeserved audiences accessibility, vocal concerts, training, and educational outreach. Ladies and gentlemen, I present opera singer Cheryl Warfield.
He's got the whole world in his hand. 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 He's got the woods and the waters in his hand. He's got the woods and the waters in his hand. He's got the sun and the moon right in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got the birds and the bees right in his hand. He's got the birds and the bees right in his hand. He's got the beasts of the field right in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got you and me right in his hand. He's got you and me right in his hand. He's got everybody in his hand. He's got the in his hand. He's got the in his hand.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's gorgeous. And now, the next performer, as the final portion of this program will be instrumental, the instrument being piano. Our featured pianist tonight, Isaac Benayala, has played the piano and composed music since the age of 7. Isaac's career began at Mannes School of Music, Preparatory Division, continuing at Juilliard, the Hebrew Art School, and Brooklyn College. And after high school, he attended the prestigious Oberlin Conservatory of Music, graduating with a degree in early music performance on the harpsichord and minors in the piano and composition. After Oberlin, he stayed in Ohio, playing jazz piano and directing musicals in Cleveland. At Cleveland's historic Karamu Theater, Mr. Benayala served as music director of several musicals, including The Swing Mikado, in which his original music was commissioned by the theater. Following Ohio and a brief stint working on cruise ships, Isaac returned home to New York City and worked as a freelance pianist. He served as principal pianist of the Boys Choir of Harlem under the direction of its founder, Dr. William J. Turnbull. He was the pianist for Leon Thomas, James Spaulding, and Winard Harper. Other notable gigs included pianist with Quincy Jones, Ray Charles, and Wynton Marsalis. Benayala served as music director of several musicals at the National Black Theatre Company and the Hudson Guild Theatre. He also served 18 years as music director of musicals at the Bronx High School of Science, Bronx, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, pianist Isaac Benayala.
Bob Marley, Redemption Song. piece that was really popular during the fight during Martin Luther King's time for civil rights for African Americans. This was written by Curtis Mayfield. This is called "People Get Ready." From Curtis Mayfield, let's move to a piece that from the spiritual realm, and we're going way, way, way back to when people craved physical freedom, spiritual freedom, and ideally monetary freedom. And we're still working on that. It's a work in progress. And I think, but we're definitely steadily moving towards where that should be. So right now, I'm going to play that song. It's called "Oh Freedom."
I want to thank you all for participating in tonight's concert. It truly is a blessing. A special thank you we give to our two guest artists, Cheryl and Isaac. I trust tonight's experience will help us to remember and to revive Dr. King's call to equality, justice, and brotherhood. Let not the dream die. You know, on April 4th, 1968, minutes before Dr. King was assassinated, he asked a friend to play the song for him, "Take My Hand, Precious Lord." Isaac will end tonight's program with a rendition of that song. Thank you all for coming, and good night.